Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Today, I have the pleasure and honor to have an invitee, my good cousin, Bogdan Matiu, and we're going to discuss some issues from Canada, the great country of Canada, oh Canada, and their fantastic Prime Minister, Weasel Trudeau. My cousin lives in Canada, so he's very interested in the issue. We had many conversations on the subject, and he's very knowledgeable about this. So, without further introductions here, I will have my cousin have a little bit of an introduction. Here is my cousin Bogdan. How are you?
Good. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for trying to do this over the internet.
Oh yeah, well, we gotta do it. If we don't do it, people will just buy the lies coming from the corporate media and other weasels like us. Just kidding. So anyway, we have here a little problem. We're going to discuss about the housing problem in Canada and the immigration problem in Canada. Basically, if you bring too many people in one location and you can't provide housing or employment, then you're going to have a big crisis. My cousin knows a lot about this. We have an article here. We have two more slides and another article from the great liberals from Canada. So before I'm going to start reading this article that I have ready for you here, and I'm just going to give you a screenshot of the article first. We're going to have, after that, have Bogdan tell us like an introduction about the general introduction about Canada and its issues. Bogdan, tell us a few words.
So first, I think what you are doing is extremely important. Why? Because we as adults do not have enough time to delve deep into any subject. We are sending our children to school 6, 7, 8 hours a day. They are brainwashed in the liberal schools, and now we have new generation that will not continue anything that we've started. So ideally, we as adults, we should start to educate ourselves. I understand we work a lot, but maybe with videos like yours, like yours or like others, people can get more informed, and especially when engaging in conversations by listening to right information, they can get the right answers whenever they are challenged. I think that's why we are doing in some ways things like this, is to have the right answer when you are challenged.
Well, the thing is, obviously, we are two immigrants. I live in the United States of America, and Bogdan lives in Canada. And people might think, well, why are you bitching about it? Aren't you happy? No, we're not happy. Why? Because things could go much better, and we see these great countries going down. So, for some critics or people who might say, hey, wait a minute, you're two freaking immigrants. You talk about immigration? Yes, we are. We want quality immigration, and we also want these weasels in charge of us, like garbage Trudeau and Biden and his clique, to be held accountable. So let me start reading this article, and then I'm gonna ask.
And if I may, I would like to say something here, which I think is very important, also as an argument. Like this is a rhetorical argument when it's about immigration and immigrants. Pretty much whenever somebody is against immigration, doesn't mean that it is against immigrants. It's a very important thing that usually is blended together by the propagandists. What is very important? The process of immigration should be under control, should be pretty much regulated, and if somebody decides tomorrow that the immigration process receives only 2 people per year, this doesn't mean that those 2 immigrants are not treated perfectly. So it's very important when we are talking against immigrants. We are talking against immigration, which is a process that should be regulated.
Correct. So let's start with reading this, and after I'm reading, I'm going to come back to Bogdan, and he can uh, give his analysis of this. All right, so let's see where it is. Right here. So this article that I picked was from Financial Post. It is from today, January 16th, 2024. Post haste, Canada caught in population trap for first time in modern history. Economists warn. Population is growing faster than the economy can handle, says National. Pamela Heaven says. All right, so we have a lot of numbers and statistics here. Canada is caught in a population trap for the first time in modern history and needs to limit immigration to escape it, says Economist with the National Bank of Canada. A population trap, according to Oxford Dictionary, is when the population is growing so fast that all available savings are needed to maintain the existing capital-labor ratio, making any increase in living standards impossible. So, it's historically has been in emerging economies, and escape requires either an increase in savings, a cut in population growth, or both. Canada's population grew by 1.2 million in 2023. Now, I think Canada's population is about 40 million or something like this. A staggering amount when you consider that the next biggest surge was when Newfoundland joined the nation in 1949, says a report by National Bank economist Stéphane Marion and Alexandre Ducharme. All right, that's my French. From a global perspective, Canada's population growth of 3.2% last year was 5 times higher than the average of Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development nations. And I'm quoting, "We currently lack the infrastructure and capital stock in this country to adequately absorb current population growth and improve our standard of living," said The Economist. Nowhere is this strain more evident than in housing, they say. National says the shortfall has reached a record of only one housing start for every 4.2 people entering the working age population. So one house starts to be built for 4.2 people entering the working age, not the children. The historical average is 1.8, so this is 4.2. Government programs are underway to address this. Ooh, they're helping you guys. But to meet demand and reduce housing inflation, Canada would need to double its housing construction capacity to about 700,000 starts a year. An unattainable goal, according to The Economist. And I'm quoting, "More worrisome is the fact that the decline is not simply due to the lack of housing infrastructure," they say. And we have here a little graph where it shows the supposedly Canada's standard of living at a standstill compared with the United States of America, which supposedly the standard of living is growing. Well, tell Biden that. I don't buy it. So anyway, let's go down here. According to national calculations, capital stock per capita plummeted to about 1.5% in 2023, compared with a high of almost 4.5% in the 1960s. Wow, that's not good. If Canada is to improve its productivity, policymakers must set population targets. Exactly what Bogdan said. Controlled immigration, very well controlled, against the constraint of our capital stock, they argue. And I'm quoting, "At this point, we believe that our country's annual total population growth should not exceed 300,000 to 500,000 if we are to escape the population trap." I think this is the average asking rent, all property types in Canada. This is how much it is right now. In November 2023, the average rent was $2,174. You have it right here. So the average rent, record high $2,178 in December 2023, up 8.6% from the year before. Over the past 2 years, rents have increased by 22%, or an average of $390 a month. One-bedroom apartment rents increased the most, rising 12.7% over the past year to reach an average of almost $2,000. $2,000 for one freaking one-bedroom apartment. Alberta saw the biggest hikes, with rents shooting up 15.6% to reach an average of $1,691. In 2022, rents in this western city rose almost 17%. The British Columbia kept the distinction of Canada's most expensive market for apartments. The average rent here was $2,500 in December. Oh my. So Statistics Canada will release its latest inflation regarding for the month of December today. The annual pace of inflation held steady in November at 3.1%. Well. So this is it. Let me come back to Bogdan. Bogdan, what do you think about this fantastic number?
Actually, I think it's a amazing article because it releases some data. We see in many of the current articles, they are simply opinion articles, and this one, it's we can see that basically the standard of living is decreasing because and this one is unfortunately not necessarily stated. If you want to start new and new housing, and you have it does usually people are thinking about Canada, how big it is, but really there are only a few cities where the development takes place, where the immigrants are coming. So we are not talking about one of the biggest countries in the world. We are talking about decreasing the space for every single individual, creating pretty much agglomeration, renouncing to the Canadian living style, which was flat, one, 2 stories, detached houses, and you are going to basically demolish them and build tall high rises in which the whole infrastructure is not prepared. The roads are not prepared to have to double the population. So once we are reading this article, it's besides the fact that there is no way to support this growth from the housing perspective, but there is all the other parts which are related to a long-term structural change, such as healthcare, which is not mentioned here. There are already long waiting lines for healthcare. You bring more people, it's not so much that they are going to be nurses. You should build new hospitals. You should build everything around. Like if you bring 10% increase in population and you have 20 or 30 hospitals, this means that you should build 3 hospitals in a year. If so these numbers should be seen as how much change you have to create in all of our society in order to have these people here. And also, I think what is not mentioned in this article is in what way is this immigration helpful, outside of the fact that, okay, it's increasing the prices, it's decreasing the living standards, it's increasing the agglomeration, and then there is a very important statistic there, is that from 4.5% in stock in 60s, it's right now 1.5%. This is 3 times less. And it's important to mention, which was not mentioned in this article, is that this insane immigration policy started around 60s with the father Trudeau, which was himself a slave to the international capital, so like his son. So this would be one some of my comments. And what would you like to say?
Well, my personal experience, I traveled to Canada pretty often. During the COVID time, I didn't travel because I didn't want to inject anything in me because no. And after that, I started traveling more often. So I usually go to Toronto area, and I my hours of crossing the border, my preferred hours are usually at in the evening. So I travel during the nighttime. I, let's say, reach Toronto area at about 2 a.m. Between, let's say, midnight and 4 a.m. These are my. Otherwise, it's gonna be too packed. And if you, I mean, a few times I drove in traffic over there, and I was like, this is a first world country, and these guys are car after car. I would die if I would live over there. Why don't they build another freeway on top of it or something? The infrastructure was awful. And then another thing with the housing. When I go obviously to Canada, I visit friends, relatives, and they have houses. Some used to live in apartments, and I can compare the value of those houses with the houses in the United States of America. And with that money, let's say I know people over there with houses, millions. With those millions, they buy here a house 5 times bigger than they have, or maybe even more. So it's just this discrepancy between how inflated those amounts are. I mean, you can tell me more about that, Bogdan, because we communicated and you travel a lot, and it's just the difference of how much you paying for what. Um,
The complexity here is that how we say it in Romanian, we steal our own hat. So pretty much everybody that owns something in Canada, like a real estate, is scared really that if the immigration stops or it's limited, the bubble. Everybody is conscious that there is a bubble in the prices. So, and also kind of everybody knows that the wage that or salary that you receive in Canada usually will not allow you to make a big difference in your life, which means that most of the Canadians are the talking about middle class and even upper middle class, even the regular guys. Their single valuable ownership is their house or apartment. So they are invested in this increase in price. If somehow tomorrow this will fall down at a half, it wouldn't be a deal to live in Canada for most of the immigrants. But because the houses increased in prices, each one says, okay, I don't have too much money in the bank, but because of this increase, I'm okay. So this is where on the other hand, this increases the life for everybody and is just a value number. It's nothing else. Plus huge taxes. The more the property value increases, the more the taxes increase. So pretty much when you are going to be old, you will have to sell almost everything because you cannot keep it. But these people usually don't see it. They just see, oh, I have right now, we are pretty much everybody in Toronto is a millionaire for what he owns. But if he wants to sell, then he still has to buy something. So if he doesn't move in Costa Rica or in somewhere in the south, he cannot stay here. So it's pretty much like right now, it's a design that you come here, you buy something, then you work your ass off until 20, 30 years, and then you sell it and you move somewhere else. Because the only real deal that you made is in the value of the real estate. So yes, I think that there would be a challenge if tomorrow the immigration would stop, and in 10 years from now the real value of the real estate would be assessed not by artificial infusion of demand, because this is what it is, artificial while the supply stays like this. And then it would be a tough time for many people that the only ownership is their house. And for this one, if you would like to show the natality and the mortality in Canada, because this would prove that without artificial
Here it is.
infusion of population, Canada will not have this at all.
So I got the natality rate here, Bogdan, and
Okay, so the point that is made is that, as you can see there, the natality is pretty much 972 per 100,000. I multiply by 100, and then on the other tab
this
would
is
be the
this is the mortality is 972, and
yes, the mortality, yes, and the natality is 1,000. So pretty much the natality and mortality are pretty much equal.
Yep.
So Canada would not have risk of depopulation like some Europeans countries. They provide this some kind of excuse of bringing more and more immigrants because the population decreases. Okay, so we can see that in Canada we don't have such a risk. It's just that we would be on some kind of an equilibrium, and I think this would be quite right, because we have so many other problems to tackle, uh, like increasing the standard of living and make sure that the Canadians are living better and better. And we don't necessarily need one more immigrant. And because we and this is what is very interesting in that article, is that they say that we still need between 300,000 and 500,000 growth. Uh, this is a very interesting thing, because if you ignore this year, which was completely insane, 1.2 million, usually the immigration was 1.5%. So it was between 300,000 and 500,000, which means that all this report from the Bank of Canada, it's just saying, my friends, just keep it the way it is and don't do such a crazy thing like in the year 2023. You shouldn't. Why would be this? Because the governor of Bank of Canada is named by the by Freeland, by the Minister of Finance. So pretty much, don't expect that a report from an employee from there, it would be somebody that would criticize the government. Now, if we want to look from the perspective of the housing crisis, it's very important that it was known about the housing crisis. And for example, in the 2021 election, it was part of the Liberal campaign that they will build houses. Would you be so kind to show their program, the 2021 program?
Yeah, let me just put it right here with Mr. Trudeau, right here. Oh, Canada, look at this beautiful lad. He's a leader. He's a leader. So we have here the tables of content, and I'm going to scroll down to it right here. And you can see here at page 11, it says 1.4 million new homes. What's that, Bogdan?
So that's a very interesting thing. You candidate, like, first of all, this individual is so incompetent, and he names so incompetent people that I am personally ashamed.
Just a
I think I'm
second,
ashamed
Bogdan.
to be represented by such a person that in any debate with at least 15% of the population, he would be just unable to answer. So his only power is that he speaks in front of a microphone, and he is always helped by the media.
Can't
So
debate.
it's actually, it's he's never asked questions from the past, support. Like, for example, in America, there is this flip flop. You go to a certain politician and you show, okay, you say this now, how do you handle? He's never asked about these things. So I want to use your platform and ask, look, if you, Mr. Trudeau, candidated in 2021 for a mandate of 4 years, recognizing that the housing crisis in Canada is valid, and you promised 1.4 million homes. If you bring 1.2 million people per year, how are you going to solve the problem? So, because you evidently you are going to bring more people in than the houses that you build. And not only that you build, that you promise to build. We know that most of the promises in campaign are barely, here are the promises, and they tend toward the promises. So pretty much they know about the problem. They say to us whatever we want to hear in order to be voted, and then they do something against it, right? If the houses crisis was important, then you build the houses, but you don't bring new people. Or it's not important, then you don't put it into your program, you don't lie to us. And if you did this, I want people to ask him about these things, and I want him to take responsibility. And I want him to resign tomorrow, but this will not happen.
Do you think the housing problem and the prices of the properties are as crazy in the, let's say, in other places outside of, let's say, the big cities, like let's say a small town somewhere in Canada has the same issue, and let's say three bedroom apartment is $1 million or something with, I don't know, 1,500 square footage, or is the same crazy thing in everywhere, or just in the big cities where it's this influx of immigrants?
That's exactly, it's immigration. And this is exactly, you nail it. You look at the specific difference in a definition if you want to see where the problem comes from. If this, how, like, because there is a lot of buzz in the media, so they try to hide the real problem, which is not immigrants, immigration. And this is where they could look into cities where there is no immigration, and how the housing are if there is a housing crisis and how big it is. And if and then look into places where immigration is present, and see how big the crisis is, and how much the prices increase in an artificial way, because it's a no-brainer. You increase the demand, and you are going to have the prices increase. The same, one very short thing, but we can do, if people are interested, we can talk about labor market, because also bringing immigration in, with especially with people that are forced by the process to leave everything back home. So they are, when they land here, they are really nobodies. This is, the process is done in such a way, which means they will take whatever job for how less money there will be available, which means that the labor market, besides the fact that all the prices increase because of this continuous pressure of immigration, the salaries don't increase at the level to compensate, which means that the standard of living decreases also because of the labor market. So the problem is very simple to look at, but it's always treated like this.
Well, why do you think these guys promote so much immigration? You told me something about the, and my Canadian friends should forgive me for this, what I'm going to say. It's a little the neighbor from the South complex, or why would they get so many people? I mean, Canada is a big landmass, big country, populated in the south, because over there they're going to meet only the polar bears and the moose. Do they get? They want to get to about what, 300,000, 300 million people population? Do they want to catch up with the U.S.? What do you think is the goal eventually? The end goal?
I think there may be, this is speculation. Until now, it's very important. Until now, it wasn't speculation. It can be proved. This one would be speculation, and I will say two things in the speculate. The one is a Ponzi scheme. The economy currently doesn't grow. There is a crisis because of management, of invention. The things are not going well. The productivity is not going well. So with the increasing of the population, you fake it. You fake the numbers, and this is why the GDP grows, but the GDP per capita doesn't grow. So it's a need to fake the numbers. That's one thing. And then you also pay the international capital what you have to pay. Now, another part is, I'm sure there are some very high-end Canadians which are complexed since hundreds of years by the South neighbor that is too powerful. Every business is in Canada that is pretty much successful will be bought by an American friend which has a bigger market. And because we live in a market-driven economies, which is a very strange way of seeing things, we want to have as many people as possible so we can compete. Right now, the best market is China because it's biggest. The second market is India. And you see, even America is supposed to be scared when somebody, other country has more people. Look at Europe. It's exactly the same thing. We have to be together because it's a market. We have to be as many, which is a completely futile, and it can be challenged as at a conceptual level, but they are not able. So that's why they want to bring here most likely 100 million, 200 million, as many as possible, and as fast as possible. And they don't care about standard of living because they care about the numbers, the money that they give and they trade.
Well, I think that should. I think this will be a conclusion. Obviously, control and limit. Control the number that limit the the immigrant flow and the quality, and that should be done according to what kind of industries you really need help in. Which again, bringing an immigrant, a poor immigrant like I would have jumped on any job here at half of the pay rate an American had. That means the owner would have fired the American and give me the job, which means the American with a boat, a house, and whatever he got had to cut his standard of living to compete with me to survive. So that you depress the income, and these guys are going to make more money. Bogdan, as a final word, what would you like to share with us before we end this?
So one more time, thank you for inviting me. I want to say to everybody that watches, uh, try to educate yourself, think about these issues, and try to go deeper. Use people such as Emil to open a certain direction. They spend a lot of time to look into these things, and try to also challenge the ideas with others. Don't allow just some people to use some common things without really having the backing of numbers and of reality.
Skepticism, my friends, and remember, we're not here to bitch about these things. We want to improve these kind of things. And if you don't like it coming from us, too bad. We're not going anywhere. So thank you very much, Bogdan. Thank you very much, guys, for being with us today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.